Hello ladies and gentlemen, SeKo Starcraft bringing you some amateur replays. We've got Cochis up against buddy of mine, Dipstick. He's been sending me some of his replays. I believe he's in Silver League now, if I am not mistaken. Just recently got promoted out of Bronze, which is very interesting because I have a buddy who's in Bronze who plays a lot more Starcraft. I think is doing pretty good, who's still down there in the dumps. The dumps, man. The basement. We're all in the basement. If you're not in the Masters League, you're in the basement of Starcraft. Anyways, Protoss versus Terran. He sent me this replay because he's having a lot of trouble with his Terran versus Protoss. So I figured this would be a good opportunity for me to put on a little bit more of a strategy discussion here to see what's going on from both sides of things. We see that Cochis started off by getting himself fairly supply blocked there. He got down his pylon a little bit late. So he's going to be a little bit further delayed. But it looks like he's going to go for an ultra fast gateway here. A gateway on 10. You know, why not? Whereas on this side, barracks even a little bit slower, a little bit higher on the macro side of things. That's the option you get when you build without doing a wall off. In the amateur side of things, I almost always encourage people to get wall offs. But then you start playing against Protoss players that love going for Stalker and Mothership core pressure, and they can outrange almost everything from the low ground. They supply block you, they force you to lift, and they come to base, and then you cry, and then they laugh, and it's sad. So we'll see what kind of strategy we have coming up both these players. Double gas. Now, I'm going to say, just from my experience, unless there's something really funky happening right away, if you want the timing for gas to assist with the Terran build, what's usually really good is to start a gas either just before your barracks or just after it. You just need the one. Fill it up full of workers. Because right now, I mean, the timings are going to be a little bit off. That subtracts a lot from your income, and right now he's only got 3 people in gas total anyways. It's you almost get into that habit where you want to throw down both gases just because that, you know, lets you have all of that stuff in place. But as we can see right now, that's essentially just cost him a little bit of extra money, and he's not even in a position to use that gas just yet anyways. Down on the Protoss side, we're going to see there's a scout here. Turns around, gets away with his life, that's fine. Now, this guy took gas pretty early as well, and we can see he's got a bit of a build-up there. And a lot of minerals. He's not made any zealots. He's got a mothership core. And he's not started his warp gate research. Unless you've got a really sick plan to like go for a proxy Stargate or something like that, you should be starting that warp gate as soon as you possibly can. It's like the staple of a staple of your Protoss openings. Doesn't really matter which direction you take, simply because it controls so much. So unless you've got some really tailored build where you got your gas timings down perfect, just start that immediately. There's no reason not to. So we see on this side, well, he's still only got one person in this gas. Now the interesting thing you got to ask yourself when you're at this stage is like, what is my plan going to be? The plan from the looks of this is it's going to be, say, maybe a bio tank? No. Maybe he's just getting that to get down the medivacs, get double medivacs going. What would be very worthwhile, particularly against Protoss, and I love this opening, I tell it to people quite often, is before you even worry about your factory, go for a double barracks and get one with a tech lab and one with a reactor. The tech lab finishes really quickly. What that allows you to do is start your stim pack if you want to go for a later push, or your combat shields if you want an early push. So I love having the 2 barracks opening, tech lab, reactor. Then I'll start my factory a little bit later to move into my medevac tech. That way, if you get pressured by a 4-gate, you have out tons of Marines and Marauders to deal with it. You have Marines to deal with Oracle play. And you're safe against a lot of things. And if you run into this with an early expansion, sometimes you can move out with maybe 4 Marauders and 8 Marines and just go and actually kill it off. You see our Protoss player there does have his warp gate on the way. Stargate, Twilight, 2 gateway. Now this is kind of funky. I mean, the only reason you're going to be going for this Twilight is if you're going to go Dark Templars, and then you don't want to get down this Stargate because that's all of your gas. Or you're getting it so you can get more upgrades. He doesn't have a forge, so it's not about upgrades. Or you're getting it to get blink or charge. So for me, in this case, this is a big waste at this early in the game. Oh, he actually wants it for the Templar Archives. I like that. I'm a big fan of the storm-based approach as opposed to going Colossus all the time. The Stargate for me is a little bit of an enigma. He might be doing that just so he has detection. In the early game, if you don't have a forge for cannons or a robo facility, having the ability to get out an oracle is often quite useful. Lots and lots of medivacs. More medivacs than maybe is necessary at this point. But it looks as though he wants to go for some sort of early pressure here. Bit of a supply block happening once again. It's very difficult to know when you should start building it. As you can see, he's building 4 supply depots at a time. Oh, a couple more. Apparently Dipstick's really not wanting to get supply blocked anymore. And I do like what Cochis is doing here. Even though he's very vulnerable right now, if his opponent doesn't come and attack him soon, he's going to have up all the tech he really needs. He's going to have the upgrades in place. Though he does need to get his gases, all of them, if he wants to support 2 Forge, Stargate with Phoenix, of all things, and to be able to get into storms. Very crazy. Very crazy indeed. So we see a fair bit of money here from Dipstick. Either he's got to keep up with your production of units, or you got to throw down that command center. And I like doing this once in a while. Like if you don't have a lot of attention, let's see what he's looking at right now. Yeah, scout around your base, look at units that are idle. And we can see from the looks of it that he's doing what I call, I'm going to pause it for a second because this is quite common. Where we use like the mouse movement, so you can see at the side of the screen. I'm using my mouse to move the screen around. I mean, it's great when you're just around your base, but it's very important to get used to using the mini-map to move around places. You can move faster with it. And at the same time, you're going to be watching the mini-map more often in your games. Because if we look at either person's vision right now, they can't really see anything. But that mini-map is where you should be spending a lot of your time looking as to what's going on. Tons and tons of medivacs, which I like. I think that's a cool strategy. But you're up against Protoss, you need that Marauder count. You need something that's going to tank the damage and be able to slow down that attack that's coming at you. And you're on a clock. I'm pretty sure... Yeah. Our Terran player knows that there's an expansion there. So you're on a clock. Either you go down and you do damage soon, or you have to expand, right? And this isn't a really huge army right here. So it's very difficult to want to put on a lot of pressure. Stim timing will be finished, which is nice. And very importantly, if you're going to go for this biomix against Protoss, you need those Marauder counts. It should... I don't know what the ratio is exactly in the early games because it's hard to get all that gas. It's usually 1 Marauder to 2 Marines, the ratio that I'm usually aiming for. It does... That's really funny. I didn't even notice that. Be very careful about your medivacs getting ahead of your army. When you move across spanses like this, your medivacs will obviously take the shortest route, and sometimes they get picked off. So that's why it's nice to sometimes rally your army around the map, as opposed to doing that. Now, this is really strange. I'm going to talk about the Protoss' build here for a second. Income-wise. He is making 800 minerals and 300 gas. He wants to be able to support 2 Forge, Stargate, Templar, double Forge, and 4 Gateways. That is very difficult to afford. He has got his upgrades going, which is nice. But it's very difficult to be able to do all those things at once. Now, Storm is finished here. Unfortunately, there's no upgrades really to help out this Stim bio. Nice pick off on the Mothership Core, kills the Oracle. He's killed a lot of expensive things, but this isn't much army here for the Terran. Lots of medivacs are just keeping things going though. They may have found something here that works. The Archon's probably gonna spell doom here though. They hit the boost and head home. Hit the boost. B. Alright. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about hotkeys, because we see that there's all these production facilities, and there's not much army here. And you see this bank for the Terran. When you get into these positions where you're fighting and you're attacking, which you have to get used to as the Terran player, is that while the attack is happening, your army, you can still watch and do things. What you want is all of your production facilities hotkeyed, so double click them all. Control, he's got his number 2. I generally like number 3 or 4 for my production buildings, because I like my army hotkeyed on 1 or 2. You want your army to be hotkeyed, almost always. So that way if you're attacked, you can just double tap number 1, and you're going to be able to get back to your army. In this case here, we see that there's all this money, no production, because he hasn't been using his hotkeys appropriately. So if you had them all hotkeyed together, all you have to do is click number 2 on your keyboard, hold down the A button, and when you come back home, you're going to have 40 Marines waiting for you there, right? And you can see this huge supply opening for the Terran player. He can afford to do that. So I love having, if I'm playing Bio, barracks on 3, starport on 4, and my army on either hotkeys number 1 or 2, command center on number 5. That allows you to have the best flexibility of your fingers on the keyboard to be able to use these different things. So that's my advice on that side of things. Very, very important. Because now his whole advantage is his production and his ability to have an army. If he doesn't use that well enough, he's just going to fall behind, right? You're just going to find yourself, your opponent is eventually, with the fact that he's got more, the fact that he has got more production buildings is just going to allow him to eventually take a lead in the game. Right? It's just mathematics at that point. He's going to be making more money. He's going to have more opportunity to do more things. Wouldn't mind are cute. I don't mind that idea. I think that's kind of fun to use once in a while. But now that the observers are out, that's probably not going to work out as well. So where is this Terran army here? He's got a bit of it there. Once again, you need these things to all be hotkeyed together just because it's too easy to lose track of your army. It's too easy to get them to all attack or to do something at the same time unless you've got that hotkey setup going. So as an amateur player, that's one of the things I would encourage you to do most or first is to really get good at your hotkeys because that's what's going to help you get your really good macro going. This is interesting. I like this play, using your mobility. One thing that I do encourage you to do, that if you're going to go for something sneaky like this, drop in the smoke. Because right now, the Protoss player will see this. But if you dropped over here, then you could drop all of your army out, stim it in, and do a lot of damage before he has a chance to react. So I'm usually a big fan of getting all the units out. That's a really important snipe too, by the way. No, get the facility! Actually, it might just... Oh, shit. See, once again, you want more production back at home. He's got 4 Marines making, because that's all I've got hotkeyed. Back at home, double click, keep making, keep making. Now, if you are going up against a Terran player with stimmed bio, pulling your probes is not very wise. You're going to lose them so fast. I know he's got an army coming in, he wants to buy time, but you're just about to lose almost all of your probes. Actually, he did lose all of his probes. Even with 1-1 on those zealots, just having the medivac count is pretty important there. And a GG. So, I mean, that was an okay game. And I'm going to tell, because I know that Dipstick is going to watch this later when I send this replay and put it live. You won that game because you had medivacs that healed your units up good enough. And you had the production where your opponent went to too many different tech choices. If your opponent just went like 6 gateways with Storm, probably would have come out on top. You need to have Marauders in your army. It helps you spend your money better. And once you have all of your buildings hotkeyed, get your add-ons on them. It doesn't take very long to build a tech lab. And once you have reactors down, then you're just building so many more units so much more quickly. And when you have this money, this kind of money banked, every now and then, just if you got the pressure, just go home and drop a command center. Or send an SCV off to the middle of nowhere and drop a command center. You've got to spend that extra cash. And sometimes those little things you can do help keep you in the game and give you those advantages. So overall, pretty happy that Dipstick won that one. Cochis, I think, probably could have done a lot better, but this is Silver League. I hope you guys learned a little bit from that. Let me know in some comments there if there are things in the amateur side of things you want me to focus on, such as hotkeys or minimap and so forth. And SeKo Starcraft. Talk to you guys soon.